Our we are part of ZettabytesToday, which is actually a networking organization for LGBTQ professionals in tech. And we started this virtual lunch and learn since this past February. And we are doing about every third week an event where we have people who are experts in certain areas come and do some presentation. And we also do a recording, so it is available to people who register for these events to watch it virtually. Um, Today, it is my great pleasure to bring Amanda Lang. She is a consultant with Improving, and she will talk about the power of listening through, Scrum teams. And essentially, she's also a Scrum Master and has been a business analyst. So basically, how listening is very important for any product development teams and other teams. Um, but when you're facilitating, I'll let Amanda get started.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to share my screen. It's not letting me though.
No,
Mm-mm.
Oh,
that's weird.
It's saying open system preferences, but I have everything. Allow access, allow sharing.
You have to click on the screen that it brings up.
Yeah, I have everything. It's not even doing that, which is weird.
yeah.
So it says grant access and system preferences, and then when I open my system preferences, I have everything. Am I using other applications? Interesting.
It, from what I'm seeing on participants, it says anyone can share, so
Right.
it's weird or
It's
locked
somehow
down.
blocking it from my computer then. Weird.
It's not your work computer, is it?
No.
Okay.
Let me try to quit and rejoin and see if
Okay.
that maybe like restarts it. So
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay.
So what do you do, Sagan?
I just graduated Tech Elevator.
Okay.
So I am currently just brushing up my tech stack and kind of learning and decided to join today to learn
Cool.
more.
And Caitlin?
Similarly, I haven't just graduated Tech Elevator. I graduated a while ago.
I've
So
met you,
I
right?
actually met Amanda at a networking event a few weeks
Okay.
ago, and I'm like, oh, I know her. So I
Okay.
decided to tune in.
Okay.
Yeah,
Both of you looking for work?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, this would be a good event for both of you, and to see what other things do. Okay. You're back. You're on mute. There it is.
Ah, great.
You're on mute.
Okay, sorry.
We're good to go.
Oh gosh, all right. You can tell I'm new to WebEx. Okay. So yes, sorry for all of that. Thank you, Rini. Thanks for the introduction. Ooh, okay, here we go. Technology. It's a great thing, isn't it? We all love it every day. So yeah, hi, my name's Amanda. I actually came up with this talk quite a while ago. It was almost a year ago. I was attending a Google DevOps talk, and I am not technical by nature, although I do work in the technical field. And originally, whenever I came up with this talk, I thought to myself, everybody needs to learn about how to communicate and why communicating in product teams is important and how we can be better communicators. within the technical teams. And then I started realizing that people just didn't know how to communicate in general or how to listen. And so it took me down this road of what is listening. So that's where this talk was born. It's had a few adaptations and it's changed over the course. I've given it maybe 5 or 6 times. And each time, what people are asking is just for the general understanding of what does it mean to even listen. So first, I just want to start with, is it going to let me change? Improving, that is where I work. They make me put this on here. So improving is hiring. These are some of the roles we have. If you guys are interested, reach out to me and we can talk about that a little bit more. But we partner with scrum.org, so you can take Scrum training, and then we do have some openings. First, a little bit about myself. So I do work for Improving. This is our picture from last year in Vegas. So we do a Vegas retreat each year. It's always really fun. I am I'm a certified Scrum Master. I also have taken different Agile leadership courses through scrum.org. Like I mentioned, Improving is associated with scrum.org, and we can help you get some trainings if you're interested. I try to take as many as I can just to learn more about Agile and Scrum and all of the process around that. I am the president of a nonprofit that helps to promote women in technology and helps get them more involved and included. And then I am a wife and a mother. So also some pictures of my 2 kids and my husband. That was at Myrtle Beach for spring break last year. All right, so first and foremost, a quick overview. First of all, it's going to be really hard if you're watching my screen for me to stay still. Usually when I do this in an office, I'm like walking around, moving, talking to the audience. So it's really hard to just stand here and not move my hands. But for an overview, we all live in this really fast-paced technological age where effective communication is really essential for success in life, personal and professional life. We don't understand or aren't super great at realizing that the most important part of communication is listening. It's typically overlooked or thought of something, that maybe isn't as needed. But as technology changes, we're working from home, we're learning more about the world. We have to be a good listener so that we can understand an effective response to the needs of all of our clients, colleagues, stakeholders, anyone around us, really, even our family. So hopefully knowing and learning about these different listening types will help you apply those in your day-to-day life. So the ability to listen is the key to building stronger relationships and help you and your team enhance productivity. So hopefully this will provide you some valuable insights and strategies to become a better listener in the future. So the first thing that I want to start out with, and I love giving this definition because not a lot of people are familiar with it. Everybody thinks that they know what listening is until I actually give the full definition. So I guess I can't see hands, but has anyone actually ever looked up or heard the actual definition of listening? Or is it just something you've assumed you've known?
So I took a communications class at Ohio State. So much like what you said, during my time there, like I didn't really understand it until I took that class, and it was
Yeah.
like a different, like it's a two-way thing. You have to be able to understand what the person's saying to listen. So
That is
yeah.
absolutely correct. That I haven't ever had that response before. You were like the first, and you are so right. So yeah, listening is the ability to accurately receive and interpret messages in the communication process. Most people, if you ask them what listening is, the first thing what they will say is, oh, it's just receiving the messages. That is not true at all. Listening is actually receiving and interpreting the messages. So yes, I'll be honest, when I first read this, I also was like, oh my gosh, I thought interpreting the messages was the communication piece. So yes, that is, and we'll come back to this, but this is the definition of listening. So whenever you're on a technical team, a lot of times if you're a developer, if you're a business analyst, whatever your job is, why do you even need to listen? What is important about listening? Where are some of the challenges in listening? So the very first one that's on here with the little robot, that's technical jargon. So for technical jargon, everywhere we work has a special technical language, certain terminology. I know where I'm at right now, we have a whole wiki page that's just a dictionary, an internal dictionary and glossary, and I'm adding things to it every day. My favorite example to use is right now, I'm working with my team to migrate some pages onto a new framework and code base. And so the literal project title is migrating the PLP and PDP onto the PWA. And like that is, there is so much technical jargon. They all sound exactly the same. Sometimes I get in these conversations where I'm like, I don't even know what I'm working on anymore. Is this the PDP page, the PLP page? What's a PWA? So that technical jargon, everywhere has it, right? So whenever you remove that or are aware that there is technical jargon, and try to say as many of the full words as you can, or point out, when I say PWA, this is what I'm talking about. When I say PDP, this is what I'm talking about. Listen to the words that are being used and said and clear those up as much as possible. You can be the person on your team, and I play this role a lot. You can play dumb or play like you don't know. You can provide the dictionary, the internal glossary, but it's okay to say, can I just clarify before we hang up from this call what you meant when you said these 3 letters? Removing that barrier is just, it's a huge way to start listening better and start at that communication process, make it a little more clear. So the next one here, this one, it could go hand in hand with technical jargon, especially on, in today's world and the team we're in, information overload. So we work in this constantly fast-paced environment where things are changing at the drop of a hat. I mean, where I work, we are planning constantly. Things are always changing. There's always new information. You have multiple teams coming at you. So if you're not listening correctly or using the right listening skills, you could misinterpret or miscommunicate information that's coming to you that you then pass on to the next team. The third one here, which everyone says they're good at, and it is not a good thing. No one can do this. It's a lie. It's multitasking. So doing many things at once forces us to actually not listen to the task that's at hand. Multitasking also could be considered context switching. So context switching, there's a really fun test. I don't know if any of you have done it with your teams, but essentially you have them grab 5 different colors of pens and they would write down the word pen. So you would write down the word pen in 1 color, 2nd color, 3rd color, 4th color, 5th color. And you would write it 5 times. And you would time it. So see how long that would take. And then you would go ahead and have them write pen all with 1 color, all with the next color, and time that. And you'll see that whenever you're not multitasking or you're not context switching, you can actually cut your time and reduce your time more than in half. So this whole multitasking thing, if you are ever interviewing and people are like, what's one of your strong suits? Don't say multitasking. That's not a good thing. We don't do it well. Maybe switch that up and say, I'm great at focusing on one task and completing it before moving on to the next one. So that's a huge barrier. And like I said, whenever you're multitasking, you definitely are not listening properly, so you're losing some of the information. The third thing, remote communication. We're doing it right now. The virtual communication tools lack nonverbal cues. I can see your guys' faces, but I have no idea what you're doing. I can't tell by your body image. I can't, people that are going to listen to this on the recording, I have no idea if they're actually fully engaged or if this is just some background noise. I can't read them at all. So whenever we have this remote communication in the way, it does kind of hinder the way we listen and communicate. Diversity. So we need to bridge communication gaps and understand all. I know that within tech, we have tons of different people from all parts of the world. So it's really important to try to bridge those communication gaps as best as we can. And then time constraints. We're all working on a deadline. We have rushed decisions, fast conversations, and honestly, most of the time our words and are not well thought out. We're just putting stuff out there because we have to, or because we have to get it done, and because something needs to be written on the piece of paper. So by being aware of all of these challenges, tech professionals can actively work on improving their listening skills and overcome the communication barriers and enhance the collaboration within their teams. The first step in making any of this or fixing any of this is just knowing they exist and letting your teams know they exist. I know when I told my team that technical jargon, not necessarily that we shouldn't use it, but that we should be more aware of it, it cleared up probably 15 questions because people just weren't sure what other people were talking about. Same with diversity. We have people in Russia, we have people in India, we have people in the United States. And so whenever we slowed down and said, wait, what do you mean when you say this? We found out that it totally wasn't what we had assumed. So just keep these in mind whenever you're working with teams, that these are the challenges that kind of hinder our listening and our communication. All right, so moving on, some listening styles. So I love these two memes. These both are just like perfectly represents, although I will say the graph actually holds no accurate data, so don't take that too seriously. But the concept of listening styles refers to different approaches and preferences that individuals have when it comes to listening and actually processing that information. Every person does have a preferred listening style, and it is based on your personality, the way you communicate, the situation you're in. Situation is a huge one. But to be able to understand and adapt to those different listening styles will help your communication within your teams, and improve your relationships. So there are a couple different listening styles. There's active listening, empathetic listening, appreciative listening, and critical listening. And I love this right here, Fry. Not sure if I should ask her to repeat herself or just pretend I heard her. I feel like this is my team right here all the time. Like in daily stand-up, they're always like, okay, Amanda. And I'm like, you totally didn't hear me. And it's okay to call people out. It's okay within your team specifically to say, I don't think you heard me, so maybe let me try to say it in a different way. Or what part of that aren't you understanding? I know that that can come off as maybe a little bit strong or rude, but there are ways to say that without, being stepping over any lines. This right here, I'm pretty sure is my children. So still ignoring, pretend listening, and visibly looks like they are listening, but are more worried about what's for lunch or snacks, or when I'm gonna turn Frozen on the TV. That's all my kids care about. But we all get stuck in this within our tech teams. So on a product team, it's really easy, and I see this a lot with like the product owners, product managers. Whenever we're in technical calls, I kind of you can see the progression. Like at first they're not paying attention, and then someone calls out their name, so they pretend like they're focusing, but really they're still ignoring. And then they pretend, yeah, they nod along, sure, okay, but really they have no idea what's going on because they don't think they're important because they're not technical. And really they have no idea what happened. And then decisions are being made without them even hearing what was actually being asked. All right, so again, remember, I wanted to go back to listening and what it means. Listening is the ability to receive and interpret the message. So it's important to remember, receive and interpret. So the first style of listening that we're going to talk about is active listening. So active listening is fully engaged. It is a fully engaged listening skill. It focuses on the speaker specifically. So when the speaker is talking, you are looking at them. You're using body language. You're not judging them. You're reflecting, summarizing what they're saying. You're not interrupting. You're allowing for silence. So if they are quiet and thinking about something, you're allowing that silence to sit there and allowing them to have it, which can feel really uncomfortable for most people. And you're asking open-ended questions. So this listening skill actually requires you to be fully engaged so that you're asking more than just a yes or a no. So where do you think this skill this listening skill would be best used? Are there any guesses?
Interpersonal conversation?
Interpersonal?
Yeah, personal conversation.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah. So some of the places that I have where I see this the most, so one-on-one conversations, feedback sessions, and a lot of these examples that I'll say can be in multiple different types of listening styles. So you can shift from one to the next very easily, very quickly. It all kind of just depends on, again, your style, how you interpret things. But yeah, so one-on-one conversations, feedback sessions, conflict resolution, giving advice, or seeking input. So all of those things require this fully engaged, focusing on the speaker, using the body language. Those are the best places to use this. So the next one is, here we go, empathetic and reflective listening. So this one is really similar to active listening, and I think a lot of people actually categorize them together. The line is pretty blurry, and anything that I have read and any research I've done, sometimes they're kind of flip-flopped, and it's a little bit blurry. So in this type of listening, you actually first listen to the speaker's message, create a supportive environment for the other person to talk or for yourself to talk, determine the meaning of a message, and then similar to looking in a mirror, where in a mirror you always get that feedback, you reflect the message back to them in their own words. So you would, if they said something, you would take it all in, think about it, and repeat back to them what they said in their own words as best as you can. And then you seek confirmation. Like, is that what you meant when you said this? It creates a really deep conversation, not a conversation, it creates a really deep connection. And it allows for them to start maybe more conversation. So in a technical team setting, this type of listening skill is sometimes hard to do in our technological age where we are fast paced. Remember, we're always moving, we're always virtual. This really takes a lot of courage in a group meeting to slow down the pace of the meeting and to say, when you're on a leadership call and you have 8 people who are CEOs, if you slow down and say, wait a second, is this what you meant when you said that? So this one definitely takes some practice, and I would say is one of the least used type of listening skills. But can you guys think of any places where this one maybe is easier to use?
Definitely, I would say conflict resolution.
Yep, that is my number one. So yeah, conflict resolution, 100%. I mean, if you are able to do this when you're in the middle of a conflict with a team member, they are going to hear you. They are going to respond. You guys are going to be able to work through it. So yes, this is definitely, conflict resolution is the best place for this type of listening. Team collaboration also is another place. So anytime the team's collaborating, sometimes that gets really fun and exciting. So maybe the reflective listening and empathetic listening isn't as easy, but relationship building, personal relationships. And then the one that people forget, but this should be used, any type of customer service setting, you should be using empathetic or reflective listening. If you relate to the person calling, it can help the relationship a lot more. All right, so the next one, appreciative listening. So SpongeBob, so much agreement everywhere. That's, I think when people hear appreciative listening, that's what they think of. Like, I'm just gonna sit here and like nod my head. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. Or like the Spider-Man, or it's like, you do it, you do it, you do it, you do it. Like, that's basically what I would think of when I think of appreciative listening. This is actually done with, it has to have a positive mindset and attitude. It does not mean that you have to agree just because you have a positive mindset, but you do have to be positive going into conversations with appreciative listening. It gives validation and encouragement. And in these types of listening scenarios, you're really trying to connect with the speaker. You have genuine interest from whatever they are talking about. You have general open-mindedness and you are willing to hear what they're saying. So this is definitely a place where like you want to be totally open, totally positive, hopeful for what they're saying. So this type of listening is mostly seen during like performance reviews, leadership calls, stakeholder meetings, community events. And then my favorite one that somebody brought up the last time I did this talk was self-reflection. So if you can practice appreciative listening during self-reflection, you're open to hearing what you're saying about yourself and how to make yourself better and stronger. All right, and then the final one, this is critical listening. So this actually creates the deepest understanding of the topic at hand. So you truly are understanding and hearing the words. You're evaluating everything that's being said. You're judging pretty much, not necessarily in a negative way, but you are judging what the speaker is saying. You're forming your own opinion about it. You are able to know the difference between fact and opinion when the speaker talks. Any assumptions that are being said, you are uncovering them almost immediately. You're taking notes and you're really using good critical thinking skills. This one, while it creates the deepest understanding, this one it also can tends to be like the most boring way to listen or the hardest way to listen, because you truly have to have like critical thinking, judging without being negative. You know, there's so many things that play into critical listening. Are there any guesses where this would be used the best within teams?
Maybe in like a retrospective or like some
Yeah.
sort of like performance review type thing.
Yep. Yep. So any work meetings where there is feedback requested, essentially. So retro 100%. If I try to tell my team all the time, like, okay, turn on those critical listening ears. Like we really need critical thinking and critical listening. So yeah, retros, feedback, review surveys, anything like that. Negotiations, any type of like debate, negotiation, anytime you're not totally aligned with the person who's speaking and you're debating back and forth. For example, let's say you were developing a new feature and you thought that the amount of work, and this happened where I'm at. So say the amount of code that needs to be written for one small fix was just so overwhelming that it didn't make sense, but the business was saying, we need it fixed. I don't care how much it takes. Turning on those critical listening skills, and as the developer or product owner or whoever going to the business and hearing exactly why they need that fix to happen, forming your opinion and knowing sometimes the business will say things that they think are true when in reality they're just opinions. That's where you can get more aligned and say, you know what, I heard everything you said, and actually I think we can fix it by doing something totally different because now I can hear the why of your problem. Anyone who's ever been a business analyst are pretty good with critical listening skills. They're pretty good at going back to the business and truly understanding the why. This critical listening is like, I feel like mostly how like 5-year-olds, like this is like, it really is like, why do I need to do that? Can you explain that to me? Because I am thinking one way and I am not understanding why we're doing it the way you are doing it. So this one, yeah, this one's very useful at work. A lot of people can potentially feel if you only are a critical listener, that maybe you have too much pushback, or maybe you're too strong or something. There can be some negative connotations around critical listening. So it really is important to make sure you are truly hearing and understanding what the speaker is saying. So now that we know all of those, I think the next question is, how do we choose? So how do you know? It's not like you can just flip a switch like, oh, time to empathetically listen, time to appreciatively listen. It's not that simple. This does take practice. And choosing the right listening style really depends on different factors. So, what situation are you in? What does the speaker need? Did the speaker ask for something? Sometimes people come, and you all have probably heard this. Like, I have people on my team. I have one girl, she's went to a boot camp, she's a developer now, and she'll come to me sometimes and say, I don't need you to say anything else back to me. I just need to complain to you for a second. That's fine. That's fine. I could sit here and listen. But there are other days where she'll come to me and she won't say that. And that's when I know she really wants help figuring out the problem. So understand what your speaker needs. If they don't tell you and you don't know the speaker very well, it's okay to ask. It's when they're done, it's okay to say, do you want feedback or do you want my opinion? That's totally fine. But understanding the needs will help you determine exactly how you should listen. Know your goals as well. What are you going into that trying to get out of it? You can't go into a situation and try to be a critical listener if you're not really trying to get the why out of the situation. I mean, it just won't work. So make sure you know your goals as well. Be adaptable. So be flexible. Change is important. Adjust when you need to. Know whenever you are problem solving or info gathering or building a good rapport. That's also really important. Practice active awareness. So pay attention to how you did. Assess, adjust, work on these things. And then the final one is seek feedback. So ask others for help and find a mentor. There are people who are speaking experts. They also don't have to be an expert on listening or speaking. It's okay to go to somebody after they're done and say, did I provide you with what you needed? Do you feel like I was listening well? And always consider the context and environment you're speaking in or listening in. So it's really hard to maybe be having, like, let's say a team building event. And you go in with critical thinking. Like, you're probably going to get looked at kind of funny. It's kind of a weird place to practice that. So definitely think of the environment. That goes to the assess the situation. Make sure you know kind of where you are. So in summary, we have these different types of listening skills: active, reflective, or empathetic, appreciative, and critical. So in tech and agile settings, all of these are used every single day. Even through, I know my team is really big on Teams message instead of sending emails or instead of, getting on the phone. And you can practice these listening styles through Teams messages. So be aware of your team members, know how they speak, know how they communicate, and be willing to adjust with them. Maybe share these different types of styles with them and kind of ask them, where do you see our team using these active skills? Where should we be using critical skills? Where is it important to be empathetic? And help them understand the difference in all of these listening skills so that you all are on the same page whenever you are having conversations. And so again, just to reiterate, listening is not just hearing the words, but actually receiving and interpreting the messages in the communication process. And so the last thing here, I wanted to share some resources. So these are some resources that have been really helpful for me in this process. So first of all, LinkedIn. If you go through the Columbus Library, you can actually get free LinkedIn learning. So if you just go to the Columbus Library, if you have a library card, you can type in LinkedIn, and there's actually a link on there that you can click on. And on LinkedIn, you can just type in listening, communication, empathetic listening, critical listening, and there are all kinds of learning videos and different things to talk about them, to talk about the listening styles, all for free. Mentoring. So I highly recommend that everybody gets a mentor and tries to be a mentor at some point in their life. So mentoring will help you practice different styles with someone you are mentoring. And then also the person that is mentoring you, you will be able to ask and be a little bit more open. Udemy and Coursera, obviously they have some free resources, or some of them are require payment, but for the most part, they also have listening courses. And then these two books here. So Crucial Conversations, this is one that most people know about this book, have heard about it, or have read it, but this one is more specific around the difficult and crucial conversations, but how to have them effectively, how to be an active listener, how to practice open dialogue, and how to resolve conflicts constructively. And this other one is called Just Listen. So Just Listen is called the blueprint of connecting with people. This man, Mark Goulston, claims that he can teach you to get through to anyone, even when productive communication seems impossible. And this one, while it is called Just Listen, it's around the full cycle of communication. So it is a little bit more the big picture and not just specific to the listening styles. But it is a good one. Both of these are really good. And I read a lot. So if you ever have any questions or want some book recommendations, I can get those over to you. And I think that is it. So I wanted to this is my QR code for my LinkedIn if you guys wanted. I think most of you I'm connected with, but yeah, Amanda Lange. And then I just wanted to open it up for questions if anybody had any.
Thank you, Amanda. I'll let you know, this was very informative. I just wanted to say I learned a couple of new things. One is about multitasking, out there, and also the availability of LinkedIn Learning.
Yeah,
the
I know.
Columbus Public Library. That is super
Yes.
good.
When I
So,
learned about that, I was like, it is my mission to tell everyone. I don't care what talk I'm doing. It does not matter to me. I put that in every single talk I ever do because I just learned this probably within the last year. And at first I was like, there's no way, because I was paying $30 a month for
I
LinkedIn
know,
Learning.
right? I mean
I thought it was fake. Yeah. Nope. It's all of
that
the
was
same research.
originally the Linda, right?
Probably.
Yeah. Okay.
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to have a library card, and a library card is free. So go grab a library card if you don't have
Okay.
one.
Awesome.
And yeah, and I wish I had the link. I don't have it. I always just go literally onto the columbuslibrary.com.org, whatever it is, and in the search bar type in LinkedIn Learning, and there will be a link. And I think you probably have to sign into your LinkedIn or whatever, but yeah, it's a great resource.
I think somebody was asking a question. I kind of preempted them.
That was me. That's fine. So I know I'm not the only job seeker here on the call. And as we were going through this, I was kind of transferring the different types of listening skills over to like what could be used in an interview setting.
Mm-hmm.
Would you recommend like melding multiple different types? Because at one point I was thinking, oh, critical could be useful for here, but then like you said, you also run the risk of presenting yourself as too pushy, and you definitely don't want to do that. Like you want to present yourself well in an interview.
Yeah, I think it's a combination. I think in an interview process, you want to come off as a human and not a robot. So you definitely want to be an empathetic listener. You want to be able to, I know any interview I've went in, people always, oh, how's your day? And then whenever you ask them, they say something. So in that moment, you're not going to want to be like, oh my gosh, they just told me their dog died. And you're like, I'm a critical listener, so now I'm going to critically think, like, how did your dog die? What happened? Like, that's wrong. So it's definitely, I know that's like an extreme situation, but for the most part, you do want to be able to shift easily. So you want to be empathetic, but that doesn't mean that the next thing they say, if then all of a sudden they're like, tell me about your experience with whatever, Azure DevOps, you're not going to be like still in your empathetic mode, because nobody's empathetic when it comes to Azure DevOps or Microsoft products. So yeah, you are definitely, it's not the way you choose your listening skills, is it definitely will come more naturally as soon as you understand and learn them all. But you're not going to be like, okay, I'm going into an interview, so I am only critical listener. Like, it's not that simple. It's not that clear cut. Is why whenever teaching this, it gets complicated, because really all I want to do is make sure you are aware of the different ways to listen, so that if maybe there is still a miscommunication, you're able to shift and be like, okay, you know what? Maybe I need to be more critical about this. Maybe I need to be more reflective about this. And you can shift. So in an interview, yeah, you're going to use all of them multiple times, many times, over and over again.
Is it accurate to say that most interactions you have are going to be a combination?
Oh, yeah. Unless like, yeah, I really can't even think of a situation. I mean, maybe like if you're having a really bad one-on-one with your manager, that's probably gonna, well, no, I'd say that probably is all gonna be critical, but probably not, because hopefully, if you're a good employee and you really want to get better, you're gonna do some reflective listening as well. Maybe not. I think maybe like the more fun, laid back, like team sessions, like those are probably going to be more on empathetic listening. Yeah, so there are some situations where some listening styles will be more prevalent, but that doesn't mean that you won't ever shift into a different type of listening. Yeah, I think it'd be hard to find a situation where you didn't use at least 2 styles of listening.
Right. Thanks.
Charlene, I know you joined a little bit late. Apologies that, you didn't get the invite confirmation email earlier. Did you have any questions?
No, I'm just kind of regretting that I missed the first part of it.
It's recorded. You can go back and listen.
Yeah, but I don't have any questions. I caught critical listening, and I think the end part of I
Okay.
can't remember.
Yeah,
So
again,
sorry.
I will forward the we usually post it in a private YouTube channel,
Okay.
and anybody who registers is going to get the recording.
Okay.
Just give me a few days, to get it all out. So
All right. I
Yeah, and
appreciate
if you
that.
have any other questions or have anything you want to go in depth about, reach out. Feel free to reach out to me. Add me on
yes,
LinkedIn.
sorry, Segun has a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of my biggest things is uh joining a larger tech company. Obviously, they want you to be some sort of self-sufficient at to some extent. They want you to be able to figure things out on your own. And one thing that I struggle with is finding that fine line between being able to do that and then also being able to ask for help and understand and communicate effectively that, hey, I'm having an issue with X, Y, and Z. How do I communicate that effectively? What ways have you seen people use that is like for a newcomer to a larger company that works well, whether it be like writing a list of notes down, like, hey, these are the issues I've come across, here's what I've done, presenting that, or is it like a second you have an issue, just go ahead and fire it off? What
Yeah.
have you seen work?
So that's a great question. So in the world that we live in, everyone is or wants to be or says they are agile or however you want to say it or communicate it. And so by definition, to be agile, you have to raise concerns as soon as they happen so that the team can shift often and quickly and react to that change quickly. You don't want to create a list of items and then, oh, on Fridays I meet with my boss, so I'll bring up these items to them, because whatever happened on Monday when you wrote that down by Friday is probably not relevant. Or for my team, we release 3 times a week every week. So an issue that came up on Monday has already been put into production as far as the code goes, and now it's in front of customers and now we're losing money. Maybe you can kind of gauge things. If your boss is extremely busy, you're not going to be like, hey, I want to talk to you because I found a grammatical error in the release notes. Like you have to play it by ear. But yeah, in the agile world, you do want to be able to raise concerns so that the team can adjust quickly or as quick as possible.
Thank you.
Charlene.
So since all I got was critical listening, I do have a question. Like in the world we live in now, there's always like ethical considerations. So I guess my question is like when practicing critical listening, especially in like sensitive situations or even controversial situations, like how have you traversed that in the past?
Yeah, so critical listening. So there, I would say whenever you're in a sensitive conversation and something that maybe is going to be a little bit more touchy, you would probably shift from critical listening more to active listening. So in active listening, you don't judge, you don't interrupt, you ask open-ended questions. So a lot of times what I've found or what I use, if people are really touching on a subject, I go back to asking and trying to figure out where that comes from. So why are you feeling this way? Can you explain that more to me? So I think my answer is in those situations, you would actually switch to different listening styles. I don't know that in a really touchy, tough conversation that only critical listening would be the answer.
Seems fair.
Yeah.
Thanks.
In active listening, it was in the thing. You can watch the recording, but you allow for silence. So in those tough conversations, you allow people to kind of like sit with how they feel and allow them to process that while you're also figuring out how to react. You don't have to, listening isn't like responding immediately. You can like sit for a second, think about how you're going to respond, let the speaker know you're listening to them, you're focusing on them. You just need a second to process it. You're still listening even if you're not always talking. And sometimes you're still listening even if you're talking the whole time. That's me. That's
I
my problem.
apologize. I've been multitasking here.
See, not listening.
So actually about multitasking, did you know about this study that was done in Norway? And they actually found out that there 98% of humans cannot multitask, meaning doing both tasks, more than one task, equally well.
Yep. Yep.
And but there are superhumans that are 2% of the world's population who can do that. And that's what I tell people all the time when I'm training or doing some coaching, that unless you're that 2%er out there, stop multitasking.
Exactly. People like are always like, no, it's fine because all I'm doing is like reading this and doing. I'm like, no, you can't because your brain just chemically,
Right.
scientifically, we can't. We are humans. We're not that cool yet. Maybe one day.
Okay, Charlene, did you have a question?
No, I just lowered my hand.
Okay, okay. Well, we will give you 5 minutes back to your time. Thank you, Amanda, again for this wonderful. It was really informative and a great talk.
Thanks for
Um,
having me. It was great.
And also, I put out some links in the chat. If you want to be a speaker, the rest of you, we are going to open up for 2024, starting in February. We are completely booked, thankfully, till end of January. And then we're going to like every 3 weeks. So this is also a forum for folks who you know are getting started. You don't have to be necessarily an expert, but if you have something to share with the people, this would be a good place to practice your outside speaking skills. Talking about Tech Elevator, we are working with Vinny Sanfilippo that when people come up with their capstone projects and things like that they get a forum to speak. So we are trying to do a lot of things, but if you want to speak, please use that contact us form, or just reach out to Robin, me, or Vinny. And
Yeah, I would recommend people new to this field or trying to get into it. This is a great place to start. It's virtual, you're in the comfort of your own
right,
home. It's easy, it's simple. Definitely just get out there and try it.
awesome. Thank you, Amanda.
All right,
Thank you
thanks. Have
all
a
for
great day,
joining.
everyone.
Ciao.
Bye.